Let's get a check of the top business news stories. Kate Moody is here. Hello, Kate.
Hi, Tom.
You were enjoying the dogs, I can tell.
I mean, who wouldn't?
Well, it's a business story. It's a business opportunity, I'd have thought, a gap in the market. Now, some EU energy companies are suggesting they could bend to Russia's demand and actually end up paying for energy in rubles.
Yeah, in a sort of a roundabout way, really, Tom, by opening both a euro and a ruble account at Gazprom Bank's unit in Switzerland. They would then make those payments in euros and the bank would convert them to the Russian currency. Now, the German energy provider Uniper has told the BBC that it considered that payment conversion scheme to be compliant with both sanctions law and the Russian decree. It went on to say, for our part, for our company and for Germany as a whole, it is not possible to do without Russian gas in the short term. It would have dramatic consequences for our economy. Now, it's understood that other energy companies in Austria, Hungary and Slovakia could do the same in the days to come. European officials have warned that such a move would in fact be in breach of EU sanctions. It comes amid further concerns about natural gas supplies in Europe. Russia has suspended deliveries to both Poland and Bulgaria, citing their refusal to pay in rubles. If it followed suit for the rest of the bloc, new estimates suggest the EU could be plunged into recession. Poland and Bulgaria have said they're not anticipating gas shortages, with Bulgaria's energy minister standing firm on his government's refusal to cede to Moscow's pressure.
And actually, since the letter implies that if it is signed, it becomes a part of the existing contract, it refers to the entire contract, which means till expiration, which, if you look at it only from a corporate perspective, there's not a sensible person that would sign this.
The American economy unexpectedly contracted in the first quarter of 2022. Economists had forecast a slower pace of expansion, but not the 1.4% drop, which breaks the post-pandemic recovery. Rising cases of the Omicron variant of COVID-19 stunted economic activity at the start of the year, while Russia's war in Ukraine has fueled the highest level of inflation in 40 years. The Federal Reserve is due to pick up the pace of interest rate hikes next month to combat those surging consumer prices. Most analysts aren't expecting the U.S. to fall into a recession, which is defined as 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. That's partly because consumer spending remains strong. Separately, the number of Americans seeking unemployment benefits dropped once again last week. That reflects the ongoing tightness of the labor market and employers' difficulties in recruiting staff. France's labor market is also picking up. New data show just under 3.2 million people were registered as unemployed in the first 3 months of this year. That's 5% fewer than the previous quarter, nearly 16% fewer than the same period a year earlier. The newly re-elected President Emmanuel Macron is expected to focus on getting still more people back to work with higher salaries to deal with France's ongoing cost of living crisis. The European Central Bank has issued something of a mea culpa for being so off base with its inflation forecasts. A letter published on Thursday said its projections had become less accurate since the third quarter of last year, when unexpected developments in energy prices, coupled with both the effects of post-COVID reopening and global supply bottlenecks, led to unprecedented increases in consumer price inflation. Now, in December, the ECB predicted that inflation in the Eurozone would hit 4.1% in the first 3 months of this year. Prices then rose a then record 6.1%. That was the largest error in ECB projections since 1998. Eurozone inflation soared to 7.4% in March. The bank's vice president said today he thought that surge was very close to reaching its peak. Analysts say there is now growing pressure on the ECB to act.
This is the mandate of a central bank, price stability. So in theory, actually, it should be all on the ECB's side to deal with and indeed to see how fast they can actually bring interest rates back to zero as a first step. Unfortunately, there's a lot that both the central bank and the government cannot control. So I think that they will try to do their best and again mitigate the impact of the energy and food crisis on purchasing power. How they do that? They can cap prices perhaps also at the European level. This is another priority of the next government, and Macron is obviously one of the most active pro-European policymakers in this area, trying to, bring these kind of measures at the European level and perhaps think of some kind of pan-European regulation in prices and also fiscal subsidies that will come along with that.
You can see the rest of my interview with Frédéric Ducreuset with a focus on what's next for France's economy in People and Profit. That's on the France 24 website now. The UK government has said it will once again delay the implementation of full post-Brexit border checks over fears it will add to rising inflation and further disrupt supply chains. It's the fourth time officials have pushed back their deadline since the UK officially quit the European Union. New import controls on EU food products had been due to begin in July. Most British businesses have welcomed those delays, although some say they've already spent millions in preparing for the changes. A statement from the Brexit ministry said the government has concluded that it would be wrong to impose new administrative requirements on businesses who may pass on those associated costs to consumers already facing pressures on their finances. The change in approach is expected to save British importers at least £1 billion in annual costs. Tom, fourth time that this has been delayed so far, but you have to wonder when these full-on Brexit checks will ultimately be put into effect.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed for that. Our business editor, Kate Moody, thank you so much. That's it from us.